Hey, I'm Eve. I'm going to share a little bit of my story with you. So, I can't honestly say that there was any particular circumstance that led to any of my suicide attempts. What I can speak on is that my mindset and my depression just totally took over. There were always situations of me not feeling worth being on this earth. There were always feelings of me not feeling loved, always feelings of just feeling trapped, no one to talk to, nowhere to go. And despite having a huge loving family, in my family growing up, if you had any type of mental health issue, it was kept under wraps. It was quiet and you needed to pray more. And I didn't want any of my family to think I had any more going on than what I had going on. So I didn't tell anyone anything. And that was really rough. Like, especially in my teenage years, I kept a lot to myself. So by the time I got into my 20s, it was just boiling over. Growing up in South Carolina, a black girl who likes EDM and rock music, that does not go over well. And it's hard to fit into the box that everybody wants you to fit in. I genuinely felt trapped almost my entire life. And emotionally, I was never taught a way to get it out or talk about it. Or when I did talk about it, it was just never a good situation. So I'd say if I had to pick one circumstance, it was just not having anyone to be there for me. And that's really rough because that's the mindset I had every day, not just a couple of days leading up to it or a couple months leading up to it. Every single day, that's genuinely just how I felt. I am a trauma survivor on multiple levels: emotional, physical, sexual trauma survivor. I was molested as a kid. I never told anyone until about 4 years ago. I told an ex-boyfriend. He went through something similar, and we just kind of had a long conversation about it. And physical, before I say this, I will say my family has grown so much. So much over the past probably 15 to 20 years. But before that, we had a very abusive household. My mom and dad fought all the time, physically, verbally, any way they could get it in. And I think a lot of times, especially starting a new business and making a huge move and things like that, like my dad just didn't know how to handle his anger sometimes. And it often got the best of him, which got the best of us. I genuinely remember, like, as a kid, just wanting to be my dad's friend, thinking that if he could have a friend, that he'd stop being so angry and that maybe, like, everybody wouldn't get hit as much. And I'm not sure if either of my parents realized the trauma and the everything that caused, but, like, that was a lot as a kid, and it stuck with me, and it stuck with me to the point where I think as an adult I accepted things from guys that I shouldn't have, and just in relationships, period, friendships, all of that I shouldn't have accepted because that's what I saw. And even though I was taught that it wasn't right, that's what I saw all the time, and that's what I accepted because I guess that's what I was used to. And it wasn't healthy, and it was super traumatic emotionally, physically, and all of the above. It's definitely something that, like, I've had to work on with my own daughter because I have to remember those moments and say, like, I never want that to happen with her. And those moments truly led to definitely led to my suicide attempts. I can't even say one or two times. Each time that had an effect on my decision to try and take my life, to the point where when I did try to take my life, I told no one. My mindset now is completely different. It is still transitioning. I can honestly say the mindset that I have now is very new to me. Loving me is very, very, very new to me. Being loved is very new to me. These are things that either I didn't recognize before or I didn't have before, but either way, I didn't feel them before. Right now, I'm in a really healthy relationship that is really great. And before, I honestly now, like when I was in it, I couldn't see it. But now I see how toxic my relationships have been in the past. And I see the codependency and I see all the issues that were. And it really took me to love me enough to say, like, I'm not settling anymore. I know what I want in a partner and I know what I want in life, and I'm not settling. So I went single for quite a while just because I made a decision not to settle for anybody who wasn't gonna 100% be there for me. If they can't handle my mental health issues, if they can't be there for me, if they can't support me, if they add to anything other than my peace, I refuse to let them have them. I refuse to have them in my life. And that includes even my family. I think we're raised to think that family is everything all the time. I know me coming from a huge multicultural family, that is what we are taught. And it took me to become an adult and really reevaluate some relationships to see that that's not true. Do I love my family? Absolutely. But I also know when to separate myself from people now. And separating myself from some of my family and some of the beliefs and the actions and such that go on with my family was probably the best thing I could have ever done. Whereas before, I used to try so hard to just make my family love me, make my family like me. And it just always blew up in my face. It always turned into something other than what I wanted it to be. There was always a fight, an argument, always something that led to negativity. Now, I know how to space it out, and I know how not to let anyone else not having peace affect my peace. I know how to limit my time with certain people. And I had to learn that it's not being disloyal. Like, me protecting my peace is not being disloyal. I think that is the biggest mindset change that I've had to have, is that my self-care, my peace, my mental health has to come first. I truly believe that if I didn't change that part of my mindset, it wouldn't work. Also, just becoming more and more healthy physically. Like, this is a change that had to come internally and externally. I was overweight, which made it even worse. So when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't happy at all. Like, I had to get to a point where I was happy looking at me so that I could love me. And me changing that mindset and changing the physical to help the mental truly did wonders. Whereas before, I would just stay in the bed for days. I would just do nothing. Or I'd do a whole bunch of drugs and be out for a few days. Or I'd drink myself silly and do all the things that you shouldn't do to try to heal pain and cure anything wrong with you. Yeah. My mindset now is totally different. My mindset now is truly finding my peace and finding moments of gratitude every single day. Whereas before, I just dwelled on all the horrible. And you genuinely just can't dwell on the horrible, because most of those times, those things are all temporary problems. And the great things last so much longer. 5 suicide attempts, and I think 2 are known. I never saw any type of help. At one point, my sister found me. I had overdosed on some pills, and they took me straight to the hospital. And my mom ended up coming to the hospital, checking it out, making sure I was okay. Of course, they kept me in the psychiatric ward for, I think, like a week or so. And I remember thinking, like, okay, now I can talk to them about it. Now this has happened. They're going to care, and this is going to be something that we fix. No. My family chalked it up to I was missing my, at the time, husband who was deployed, and that I just needed to go to church and that I was just homesick. And I just remember thinking in my head, like, I just almost died. And y'all are still saying that I need to pray and that I'm just going through something and that is not a big deal. And after that, I didn't seek help anymore because I just looked at it like, for what? The only other time I got help, I didn't seek it then either. My ex-boyfriend found me and once again took me to the hospital. But even after that, I got out of the hospital, went back to work, and went back to being depressed, honestly. Like, it just triggered me again to just be like, gosh, you're not doing anything right. Like, you didn't even do that right. And that was tough. Like, that was really tough. My road to recovery is not over, but I am so glad you guys are a part of the journey, and I hope you continue on this journey. It wouldn't be fair for me to give any type of reflection on what this journey has been because it still goes on every single day. Every day is still a challenge for me. Every day I try to push through. And that is where I'm thankful for my online tribe. That's where I'm thankful for my Kind app tribe. I also use an app called Unplug. It's an amazing meditation app, and it can guide you pretty much through any emotion that you're feeling. It can go anywhere from 2 minutes to 2 hours. So if you're feeling anxious, you click a meditation for anxiety. You feeling sad, you click one for sadness. You feeling angry, you click one for being angry. But I've noticed that it helps me bring me back to the place where I really want to be. I've gotten huge into crystals and burning my sage and really doing yoga and getting in tune with myself. And with that, I have honestly stopped taking all medications. I was on Seroquel, I was on lithium, I was on quite a few things because past my PTSD, I also have bipolar disorder. So I have worked through so many medications and so many doctors, and I'm just to a point now where I still see my therapist, but medicines aren't for me right now. If you need the medication, take it because they are made to balance the chemical irregularities, and if you can't get them regular yourself, then take the help. Nothing to be ashamed of. I grew up in a family where I used to either hide my medication or just wouldn't take it at all and then have terrible effects from it. So it was a process to learn how not to let my emotions like get the best of me, and also to know when I need to go back to my therapist to get my medication again. If I ever get to that point, trust me, I'm going back to my meds. But right now it's, just not a thing for me. I can't wait to see what this journey looks like after. I hope you are all here to see me after, when it's complete. Like, honestly, I don't know if I want this journey to end. I think this recovery journey should be something that happens for the rest of my life. I think every day I should stay this focused on my mental health, and I should stay this focused on self-care, and I should keep up this routine. So, yeah, now that I think about it, the recovery journey shouldn't end, and it won't end.